I want to wish everybody a really beautiful International Women's Day. It's such an important moment, though every day is so important for us to acknowledge the incredible contributions of women all over the world who for thousands of years have been so incredibly important in our communities. So again, this is just a shout out of gratitude and acknowledgement for women around the world who continue to work so hard on behalf of their communities, their families, on behalf of the health of our earth and water and seeds and soil. So happy International Women's Day. And we thought that it would be a lovely day to celebrate also the publication of my new book called The Healing Garden. And I just got my own first copy just recently. So it's been an amazing journey just to be, every day I pick the book up and I look through the book and read certain aspects of it. And just really, really excited to share this book with you all. And I wanted to say also that it was a beautiful, beautiful collaboration with Molly Haley, who is the photographer in this book. So there's over 200 color photographs that Molly took in the garden of me in the gardens and a couple other women that I work with in the gardens. And just had so much fun with Molly. That was probably the highlight of this book was the beautiful collaboration of the two of us together, bringing something beautiful into the world that we hope will inspire more and more and more people to grow medicinal herbs and to learn how to gather them and to dry them and to prepare them and then to use them to benefit yourself and your family and your communities. And I was asked a couple winters ago by Princeton Architectural Press if I would write a book. They were specifically looking for a book that had a big focus on drying herbs. And as I started to think about this book and their request, I thought, yeah, our friends in Vermont wrote a beautiful, beautiful book. Melanie and Jeff from Zach Wood's farm wrote a beautiful, beautiful book on more larger scale of growing herbs and drying herbs. But this book is really, I hope is going to really make a big difference in all kinds of gardeners. So this is a real shout out to gardeners in general who maybe grow things like calendula or echinacea or bee balm or anisissa, but they've never really thought about, well, then how can I maybe call upon these plants for their healing gifts? So this book is really, was really written both for gardeners and for especially inspiring young herbalists and people new to herbalism, and even wiser herbalists who have a lot of experience, maybe aren't as familiar with growing herbs or how to gather herbs or how to dry herbs. So I hope that this book will be a great contribution in just encouraging more and more and more people in their own backyards, in their own community gardens to be really growing and gathering and preparing and having the confidence to call upon the herbs to help support you in your daily life and wellness. So the book, I started the book with a chapter called Gathering with Gratitude. And for me as a young woman, I've been gathering and growing and gathering and working with healing plants for over 45 years. And I was taught as a teenager to be very, very thoughtful and mindful at how I approached plants, that before I even touched a plant or either gathered a plant, that there was a relationship that was beginning to be made. And so I described that in the first chapter, just encouragement for people who may be less familiar with what it is to really befriend a plant, to attune with a plant, to sit in a meditative way with a plant, to begin to really build a meaningful relationship with plants. So that I hope will be that practice, I hope, will be one that will spread even more so than it has in this time that we're living in. I think gratitude is one of the most important practices for any of us who grow healing plants and grow food, is the gratitude in our hearts. I also describe in the first chapter actually how do we dig medicinal roots and how do we gather leaves and flowers, and how do we gather medicinal berries and seeds. Because I, again, am trying to build confidence for people who may want to, but maybe haven't or haven't had any kind of helpful instruction. Then the second chapter is full of information on the details of drying herbs, both from my own experiences of simply drying herbs in my own home, in my living room, putting drying racks up onto the ceiling. And then there's a lot of photographs of our drying rooms here at Avena. So I hope that this chapter will be inspiring for small-scale home gardeners who want to set up a little drying area in their home, or even for small-scale farmers who are looking for more guidance in how to dry herbs, how to actually make, a bigger drying room, and all the tools that you need, including I gave information and photographs of the different dimensions of drying racks, and of both the screens and the racks, and the different tools that you need in your drying room, and how to keep good drying logs, and all those kind of things, how to keep rodents out of your drying room. So things that I've learned over many, many years of drying herbs that I hope will also be of benefit. And then though, I wanted to include a chapter that gave a lot of detail from my own direct experiences of making a wide range of herbal preparations. And you will find bits and pieces of that in other books. And this is just a reminder that every single herbalist and every single person has their own kind of individual ways that we like to make different herbal preparations. So I'm not saying that I'm the expert. I'm saying I've offered you my experiences from many, many years. And I wanted to get into like even more detail, like how do you make a tea from fresh leaves and flowers versus how do you make a decoction from either fresh or dried roots? And how do you make a tea from, fresh berries or from dried berries? So I got very specific with how-tos of different types of preparations, whether they were from fresh herbs or from dried herbs. And then I also describe how do you make herbal tinctures from fresh or dried herbs, and how do you make oxymels, and how do you make an herbal honey, and how do you make an herbal oil, how do you make an herbal salve. So I hope that this, again, as I was saying, particularly for gardeners who aren't necessarily in the herbal world as much as I might be or other people, that this become really a friend to you, that you won't be afraid to pick this book up or take it out with you to the garden or whatever. And then the last chapter, I chose 18 herbs that are very common, easy to grow, ones that I have been growing for many, many, many years. I also included black cohosh in here as kind of an encouragement for people who live particularly kind of in the Northeast, up into the Maritimes, throughout Canada, people to grow, that we need more people growing black cohosh because it is being over-harvested in the wild, and it is a very, very important medicinal herb. So that chapter, I talk about some of the healing properties of the plants, and actually how to seed them and how to plant them and how to harvest them, and then all the different forms of preparations that they can be used for. So I started working on the book a couple years ago, the whole outline, and then it was a beautiful serendipitous meeting. Molly and I met each other for another project 2 winters ago, and we both love Mary Oliver as a poet, and Mary Oliver had just passed, actually, just soon before actually Molly and I met each other. So we met as 2 women who are artists and who really value and appreciate other women artists. And after meeting her, I realized she would be such a joy to work with and collaborate on this book. So she said yes, and I'm so grateful. Molly said yes. And the other beautiful thing about the writing of this book is I love working with the editor. Sarah was just such a joy to work with, so easy and so supportive to work with. And then last spring, when they were beginning to lay the book out, Molly and I actually were the ones who matched every single photograph with the content in the book. And that was a really fun process for Molly and I also. So we both, our energy is deeply infused in this book, and we're both very, very excited for the book to come out. And there will be at some point the opportunity for Molly and I to be giving some talks together, and we're hoping to be able to talk at different libraries and do slideshow talks together. So just you can keep an ear out for when we'll be able to come back out into the world and be together, speaking together. But for now, I just am really happy to share this book. And the book will be available starting March 30th. And so Avena, of course, will have the book, and you can pre-order the book from Avena. And also I want to really encourage people to please share with your local independent bookstores about this book, and also your local libraries, because local libraries have budgets to be able to buy books. So, or maybe you have a small rural library and you want to buy a copy to gift it to your library. I really want to encourage people to support independent bookstores. So please consider purchasing this book from Avena or from your independent bookstores, and support your independent bookstores. We need them more than ever. They are wonderful sources of inspiration and community and connection. So thank you again for, encouraging your bookstores to carry it, and also for you to gift it to gardeners in your life, to herbalists in your life, and just to share. I hope that this book will be inspiring and help more and more gardeners and more herbalists to grow herbs.